excellente, etc.
Thrill me.
Be afraid. Be very afraid.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Horror Flicks and Guitar Picks podcast. I'm your host, Tim, and today I'm joined, as always, by my co-host, Steven. How's it going, man?
Huzzah! Hello. I'm not going to punch my mic this time.
This is take two, but no, hell yeah. And of course, today we're talking about, if you couldn't tell from our matching shirts, well, some matching designs, different colorways of, we're talking about Panos Cosmatos' Mandy from 2018. This was your pick, and I'm stoked to get into it and stuff. But before we do that, do you have anything? I know it is super fucking. This movie's metal as fuck. That's one thing I
It's
will
so
say.
good.
Which we'll get into here in a second. But before we dive into that, have you watched anything or been listening to anything lately that you want to shout out?
Yeah. Gosh, what? I know I've been watching a handful of stuff. Oh, let's talk about listening first, because usually we go movies first, but I want to talk music because the new Converge album just came out and it fucking rips. I'm so happy with it. It's probably like the first Converge album in recent years that I'm like front to back. I just love this so much. It's good. I don't know if you had a chance to listen to it yet, but yeah, I love it.
No, I haven't got to check it out yet. It was one of those things that I clicked my music tab on Spotify one day and it just happened to be up there and I was like, "Oh shit." And I was like so close to home that I was like there's no reason to start it now, you know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
not a whole album, you know what I mean? So I had like a time for a few songs, but so I was like, I'll check it out later and then I just haven't gotten back to it. But I've never been huge on Converge, but they are a
Mhm.
band that I definitely would like to listen to like the new record and definitely just give it a once over at least. So
Sure. Yeah, I feel like, I mean, it was definitely a band that was like a lot of the music of my generation. Like, I mean, you talk to a ton of guitarists and they're all like, "Oh yeah, Kurt Ballou, like guitarist Converge, favorite guitarist." I don't know. There was definitely an era for it for sure. But yeah, I love them. So good.
No, I have a couple of
Um,
friends with like Jane Doe tattoos and like that's their favorite bands and stuff. It's
hmm,
one of those things that I just came so late to the band that I think that that's what I just never really like because I came so late to it. I just never really grasped onto it. Like I enjoyed it, but not enough to be like, holy shit, this is my new favorite thing. You know what I mean?
sure,
So,
sure.
but I do enjoy their music, just not enough to like. It's so few and far between that I like really dive into like new bands, let alone like somebody that doesn't put out albums that often, you know what I mean? Because that's another thing about them
Hmm.
is now like it's been a while like you even said it's like been a while since they put out like new music and stuff. So
Yeah.
no, it's one of those things that it's hard for me to dive into a band that's just not like actively going like that. It's not a band that I'm already into, you know what I mean?
Sure,
So
sure, totally.
obviously
No,
I
I get
dive
that.
back to my nostalgic stuff all the time and
Mhm.
bands that I love and stuff. But no, so pretty much that's just why I never really checked it out. But any other music that you listen to or any other movies or anything that or did you want to shout out some movies?
Um, well, see, we watched Penelope's been getting into because we watched Welcome to Derry. She was always afraid to see the It movies. So,
Yeah.
but she watched Welcome to Derry and really liked that. And I was like, if you can watch this, you can watch any of the movies. It's kind of the same.
Yeah.
Um, and so we watched the first one a little while ago, and then yeah, we just watched the second one. And yeah, she was stoked on that.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, other than that, there's been a lot of stuff that's been coming out that I've been wanting to get out to. I did see, I can't remember on the last episode, had I seen Send Help yet? Did we talk about that?
Yeah, you had, but
Yeah.
I haven't seen it yet, so you kind of just gave me like the brief. You said that you really
Yep.
enjoyed it, but yeah, you didn't want to go too
Yeah.
far into it.
So
So.
that's the last thing I've seen in theaters. But there's a couple things that have come out that I need to get out to. Like I really want to see what is it, Iron Lung.
Yeah.
Um, I've been hearing some decent things about. And yeah, what about you? Anything new?
No, because I totaled my car, I still have not seen a movie
Yeah.
from 2026. I'm still but I have seen like four new movies to me, like the knock off on
Mhm.
my list that I'm trying to knock out for the year of like just first time watches. Uh because of rest in peace to Catherine O'Hara. I watched Best in Show because I'd never seen that before, and I'm like a huge fan of
Mhm.
mockumentaries in general. That was hilarious. If you've never seen Best in Show and you're into like just like very dry humor, definitely check out that one. It's on HBO Max right now. I checked out this movie called The Luckiest Man in America. It's about this
Mhm.
guy that it's like based on a true story about this guy who went on the show Press Your Luck back in the day. I think it was like either in
Mhm.
the 80s or early 90s. I think it was the 80s, but and he pretty much like broke their code. Like they only had like five patterns that their like lights would hit. and he figured it out. So he went up there and just like racked up money, and they figured out that he was
Mm,
like doing that. You know what I mean? So
sure.
it's a really good movie. I highly recommend checking it out. That's on Hulu as well. It
Cool.
stars Paul Walter Hauser as the main guy.
Okay.
He's the guy that played like Richard Jewell. He's been in like he's the guy that he like wrestles and stuff now. He was in
Mm.
he played the Juggalo in the episode of like when he was very young, he played a Juggalo in an episode of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia when they do
Oh,
like
really?
when they bring like a class. It's when Charlie and Dee are working at the school and they bring
Uh-huh.
like a whole class to the bar and show them
Uh-huh.
their like homemade sequel to
Uh-huh.
Lethal Weapon. That episode, by the way, you cannot find because one of the characters does blackface in it, and so it's been
Oh,
deleted from like
shit.
everything. So I have it on
That's
DVD,
crazy.
but because I have like the first like 10 seasons on DVD,
Damn.
uh, but yeah, you can't like find it on Hulu or anything like that. But it's actually like a hilarious episode, and he does do blackface in the episode, but he's like the whole point is that they're talking about how inappropriate it is. You know what I mean? It's not like
Hmm.
in a negative way and stuff. But and then I watched two classic movies that I had never seen. The original House on Haunted Hill. I'd never seen that.
Okay.
This was because Joe Bob showed it, so we ended up watching this, me and the wife, and I loved it. I was surprised by how
Yeah.
much of a like kind of like a mystery like thriller it was and stuff. So no, I really enjoyed that. And then I watched Faster Pussycat Kill Kill, which is like
Mm.
an older exploitation film about like
Yeah.
three like a trio of badass women just like
Hmm.
doing some crime and stuff pretty much, they end up
Totally.
killing a guy and then, taking his girlfriend hostage and it goes from there. So, it's a really good movie. It's one of those things if you got to be into classic movies and stuff like that. If you don't really like, aged things, it's definitely very aged like a very aged film, you know what I mean? So,
Hmm.
and definitely feels like of the time and stuff, but I really enjoyed it. So, and then as far as music goes, the only thing I've really been listening to is the new J. Cole album. I really enjoyed that. And then of course, like I think you mentioned last time, like all the Final Gas stuff that's been dropping has
Hmm.
been really good. So that's really all it. Oh, and then I've been reading, of course. I finished all of Carrie, and I
Nice.
finished In the Miso Soup, and now I'm like halfway through The Shining. So I've been like
Hell
pumping those
yeah,
books
dude.
out. So that's also why I haven't watched
Dude,
like a ton of
you're
movies.
such a brainiac.
Dude, I haven't read an entire book. Like I've listened to audiobooks of several
Mm.
things. I haven't read an entire book since high school. So this is like
Oh, damn.
the fact
Nice.
that I've
That's
already done
fun.
two and like I'm really enjoying reading. I'm not gonna lie. Like I've
Yeah, that's
like there's
great.
nights where I'm like I asked Lauren, I was like, "Can you just watch Housewives and I'll read or something?" Because like
Uh-huh.
I really want to get like The Shining's really awesome to read because I've always wondered about the differences, because
Hmm.
Stephen King's such a non-fan of the movie. And that's like all I've ever known of The Shining is that
Sure.
original movie. It's so
Yeah.
awesome to see like the actual differences and why he's such a non-fan and stuff. So, uh, but no, I really have enjoyed reading so far. So it's like
Nice. Stoked.
nice. Not that I've tried to pick up stuff in the past and just never finished it,
Hmm.
or like I bought a book with intent to read it and just never like actually
Hmm.
jumped in and started it. Like In the Miso Soup, I've had for like 5 years, and I
Sure.
finally read
Yeah.
it. So,
That's how
but
I usually am too.
but now that I have all these Stephen King books, like I said, I got like 30 from my mom, like in the past month or so. So,
Hmm.
I've been pumping through those, and there's some other stuff that I already want to pick up. Like I want to pick up, uh, Bret Easton Ellis's American Psycho. I want to pick up
Hmm.
some of Grady Hendrix's stuff. So, definitely gonna read
Yeah,
some.
when you're diving into that, let me know. I can tell you the ones that I've read too, if you want to
Oh
have
yeah.
some suggestions. So,
No, I
but
definitely
yeah.
think I want to do Final Girl Support Group because that's like the big one that
Hmm.
always comes up. But there's like quite a few of his that I'm interested in. So
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah, for
but
sure.
but I just want to pick up a few things to kind of break up the monotony of just steadily reading Stephen King. You know what I mean? I don't want to
Yeah.
like beat that to death. So
Oh, I've got some great suggestions that we can get into off air. But yeah,
oh yeah,
yeah, I don't read a whole lot, but I feel like the stuff that I have read has been, I would recommend it to anybody, especially people that are, like similar things film wise. So,
yeah.
but yeah,
I definitely
that's
want to read
cool.
some more Ray Murakami. Like I've listened to the audiobook of Audition, but I wouldn't mind reading Piercing because I've seen that movie as well, and then a couple other
Mhm.
things. So.
Heck yeah. Nice, dude.
I mean, hell yeah. But we can dive into Mandy, man. We can kick this thing off just like they kick off the movie, if you like, with
With some,
the quote, "When I die, bury me deep, lay two speakers at my feet, wrap some headphones around my head, and rock and roll me when I'm dead." Which apparently that quote is from a murderer, Douglas Roberts, who
oh,
was high on drugs and murdered a guy. And
no
it's also
way.
yeah, it's like a variation of like an like not Evil Dead, a Grateful Dead like thing
Oh,
that
okay.
the fans
Yeah,
say.
yeah, yeah.
That he said like his own variation of it when he was like it was either in trial or like his last words before he was like put to death or whatever. I can't remember. I think it was in
Damn.
trial or whatever, but yeah, that's what he said. He said some other stuff beforehand, but that's like the quote they took. And yeah, apparently he's called like the ice cream shop murderer or something like that because he just like
Okay.
randomly killed a guy from I don't know the whole story, but yeah, he killed like one guy when he was like high on drugs and stuff like that. So it was wild,
Damn. Damn.
but no, hell
Well,
yeah.
that's
But of course that's before after that is we get into Starless, but before we dive straight into the film itself, what made you choose this film? And of course, like what was your first I guess like your first experience with it.
yeah. So I picked it because I don't know, it's February. Valentine's Day was yesterday.
It
And so or was it Friday? I don't even remember at
was
this point.
yesterday.
Yeah, it was yesterday. What day is it?
Them old man
Um,
glasses on, like
uh, now I'm just gonna be like freaking what's his face from Jumanji and just be like, what year is it?
yeah. Alan
Freaking
Parrish.
yeah. Anyways, sidetrack. Yeah, so February, Valentine's. This is a movie about love. And I don't know, I thought about doing like let's pick a Valentine's horror and so there's like My Bloody Valentine. I still haven't seen Heart Eyes. But there's some lovey-dovey films. I almost thought about doing Possession. And I don't know. I was like, oh yeah, you know what? Like I love the movie Mandy. We haven't, I mean, we've talked about it outside of the podcast, but we haven't really talked about it super hard on the podcast. So I was like, oh, let's chat that one. Um, what a amazing movie.
Yeah.
My first intro was, when it came out. I'm trying to remember how I watched it. If it was online or because I don't think I went to a movie theater to see it. Um,
I know
I
it
don't
was on
remember.
Shutter pretty early. Maybe you just watch because that's how I watched it. Was on Shutter, like I think in 2018 when it came out, if I'm not
You know
mistaken.
what? I think it did go to the theaters, and I think I saw it, and I remember seeing the Shutter logo, and then it came to Shutter like pretty much. It was like one of the first films, Shutter films, to like show up,
Yeah.
right? Um, and I didn't have that streaming app for that long, so yeah, it was just like what? Yeah, I just remember. I think I just heard like some hype about the film, went and saw it, and was just like. I haven't been this floored from a movie since like when I first saw Suspiria. I mean, that it tracks for like how visually stunning this movie is. Um, but yeah, I don't know. It was just, probably just hadn't seen anything that uniquely original and, yeah, amazing movie, amazing movie. And then, that was like the resurgence of revitalization of Nick Cage, you know. Yeah. So, what about you? How did you first come about seeing it?
I should have remembered the year when I just said that I thought I might have saw it in 2018 because it was 2019 when I saw it because it was when I started the podcast that I started the year before I started this one. I did
Mm,
like a very short lived like 2 month run podcast where I had a co-host and
mm,
things just fell apart where we didn't do like pretty much he started ghosting me, you know what I mean? So
mm.
it got hard to do episodes, and so I just like tapped out until I decided to do the more interview based horror
Sure.
flicks and guitar picks, starting in 2020. But so back in 2019 when we were doing the episodes, like we were recommending movies to each other and just chatting about horror in general between us. And he like
Mm,
recommended Mandy to me, and because it was so available at the time, it was already on Shudder. Because like I said, this was 2019 already.
mm.
So even if it was like, because I think you're right. I think it did have like a theatrical run and then quickly went to Shutter, but it was like,
Yeah.
so I know at least was there by like the next year and stuff. So I just watched it on Shutter one night, and I'll be honest, the first time I watched it, I fell asleep, and then I tried to watch it the second time, and because I had already watched it the first time and then started it from the beginning the second time. By the time I finished it, I just felt like it dragged so long that the ending was awesome, but I was like, man, that movie felt like forever. But so then after I like let it sit for a while and actually just sat and watched it again, I realized how much more I like actually loved it and how much it like
Mm,
actually like works well. And it just felt like I said, it only felt that way because I literally like it was like the next night I was like, I want to watch this. You know what I mean? I want to see how it ends.
sure.
But because I watched that whole like slow beginning, the slow burn part of it like over again the very next night, it just felt like it dragged more than it actually did to me. So because
Mm,
it felt like very deja vu-ish. But so when I
sure.
finally like let it sit and like watched it again though, I really loved it that like third watch. And like really just saw like I will say that that's still like my only complaint is the pacing in moments,
Mm,
only because it like I could see where it would take a lot of people out of the film. Like it doesn't really necessarily bother me now that I like know that it's like the stylistic choices and stuff like that to look
mhm,
for, but I could definitely see where it would take a lot of other people out of the film when it's like a really great film. But that's literally my only complaint. And uh upon rewatch, I don't really have that issue. You know what I mean? I
mhm.
can just see where that would be an issue for like a first time
Oh, for
watcher or
sure.
something. So
Yeah, were you familiar with Panos's work before the movie came out?
no, not at all. And I still haven't seen Beyond the Black Rainbow. I honestly, if we would have had like if I wasn't dealing with all my car shit for the past 2 weeks, I definitely would have tried to fit that in just in case it came
Oh
up in
yeah.
conversation and stuff. But I didn't have time. But
Uh it's rad. I mean, definitely I'll be excited for you to check it out. It is if it is if you thought Mandy was slow at moments, oh my God, Beyond the Black Rainbow is I mean it's straight up like scenes where it takes 10 minutes for a person to walk across a room, but it looks really cool.
yeah,
And then like sonically it's amazing. Um I mean, I definitely remember watching it and at the end being like, I don't know what I just watched, but it looked cool.
yeah.
So like maybe have an edible before you see that movie. That's the kind of movie I think or kind of state you should be in to really like soak it in. But yeah. But
Yeah. No, I do think that if Panos Cosmatos had done more films, like because I know the only other thing that I could think of that he's done is that Cabinet of Curiosities, which I also haven't
mm,
seen.
it's
Um,
great.
but like I feel like if he had done more films, like if he had done one like every 3 or 4 years instead of like them being like almost every 6 to 7 years,
Mhm,
that he would probably be up there with like at least like the Damien Rugnas right now, or like maybe even like a Ty West, where he's
mhm.
talked about as like being exciting for what's coming next, which I think he has a film coming up. I just don't remember exactly what it is, but
Uh
I think it's like a
yeah,
space vampire film or some shit, but
yeah, it's like an 80s space vampire film. I think it's called Flesh of the Gods. Yeah, Flesh of the Gods.
fuck yeah.
Um, yeah, with Kristen Stewart and Oscar Isaac
Metal as
are
fuck.
casting it, and Elizabeth Olsen is cast in it too.
Oh yeah.
I don't know what's going on with it. I think it's kind of in like limbo from like a financial standpoint.
Yeah.
But I hope it happens because he's been talking about it for a while and sounds awesome. So, um, but yeah. I really liked his Cabinet of Curiosities episode too, so definitely check that out.
Oh yeah.
And I had no clue about his who his dad was too. When I saw Mandy, that was like the first one that I was just like, oh gosh, he comes from like movie royalty apparently. Who is
Yeah.
this guy? So, but
Yeah, George Cosmatos is his dad. I learned that like this past week, and what's funny is literally
mm,
I found that out because of I was listening to this episode of Screen Drafts, this podcast
mm,
that I listen to where they like do draft based lists, and so they go back and forth picking lists instead of doing like each individual list, you know what I mean? And they were doing action
mm,
horror movies, and they put Cobra at number one, which is directed by
mm.
George Cosmatos. And I didn't know exactly who, like I was like, oh, I wonder if that's, Panos's dad, or like
Uh-huh.
if there's any relation. And then I was listening to something else like when we were gonna do Mandy, I was like listening to something like just talk about it real quick, or I can't even remember what it was, but they mentioned that it
Mhm.
was his dad. I was like, oh shit, that's awesome. I was like,
Yeah, I had never seen Tombstone. Once I found out who his dad was, I was like, "Oh yeah, I know that's a famous movie." And then finally watched that, and I was like, "Heck, hell yeah, that's Panos's dad. Like Panos is more famous to me than his dad." So,
Yeah, and
But
it's wild because his dad has made like he's made some stinkers too, but he's made so many good films that you think that his name would be more known. But I didn't even like
sure.
that. That was honestly my first time hearing George Cosmatos like that I can remember. You know what I mean? Was this past week on that
Mm,
podcast when they talked about Cobra? I was like, damn, I'm surprised I had just don't hear his name more often than because I'm a person that like looks up a lot of directors and stuff. So I
yeah.
know the more not more obscure people. I'm not gonna say that, but I do know
Hmm.
which I guess he doesn't really go into into the horror world so much, so that's probably why. Because
Mm,
most of the directors I know are like obscure horror directors, but not really like action guys or just
sure.
uh Western guys, Tombstone stuff. But that's another thing. Is he just kind of does whatever. He doesn't do like one
Hmm.
genre specifically either.
Sure.
But no, hell yeah, we can jumping back into Mandy, I will say that I'm excited to see what he does with vampires because this movie is chock full of references and everything. And one of my favorite references is when you see not to jump too far into the film, we'll go back to the beginning, but I just want to
Hmm.
mention while we're talking about vampires, the scene where the black skulls like show up and they're like standing up on the hill with like the red behind them. It immediately makes me think
Hmm.
of the Lost Boys when they like
Oh
eat
yeah.
the punk dudes around the campfire and then like
Hmm.
Michael falls down the hill and they come walking up with like the light behind them. It like immediately gave me that vibe, especially with the way the dude was like doing the metal stance with like the like cocked leg and shit.
Hmm.
I'm like fucking exactly like that. But that's the thing I love about this film is all not even references, just like the way you get storyline and everything from
Hmm.
the very beginning. You get the was it Starless by King Crimson over the
Hmm.
like the title card, but at the same time, you
Yep.
also like learn so much about Red. You learn that he's a lumberjack, that he's no longer a drinker, like that he, has drinking problems. The way he's like saying
Sure.
don't do that anymore and stuff, uh, and then he's also very dad jokey with the whole Eric Estrada from Chips bullshit. But
Hmm.
what do you think about the beginning of this film and like how it moves, like and kind of like introduces us to the characters and stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I probably felt similar the first time you saw it. Heard hype about the movie, and then I'm getting into it. I'm like, oh, this is a slow burn. I thought this is supposed to be a horror movie, you know? And yeah, it does. It's an interesting tone. Like we haven't seen Nick Cage in a film in a while, so it's like when he drops that joke, I remember it like fell flat for me, like, and it's funny because it was so awkward, and I was just like, all right, cool, we'll see what happens, you know. Um,
I still hate that joke for some reason. Every time he says it in the movie, it makes I'm get like a slightly mad. I'm not gonna lie. I'm like, fucking such.
but you're right about this movie. Like aside from just, I mean, I know we're kind of talking about the intro of the film, but like this movie could almost be a silent film and you wouldn't need dialogue and you would get just as much emotional weight. Maybe not so much the bathroom scene, which we'll get into. Um, but yeah, I mean, the way Panos tells the story visually, and sonically, like if you just took the score, you could feel the weight and like when good things are happening, and when he's like, uh, you know, the happiness, like the score changes and it's very like ethereal and, dreamy. But yeah, dude, it's done so well visually. But yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Even down to the character of Mandy herself being so visually like striking, you immediately, which shout out to Andrea Riseborough. This was the first film I'd ever seen her in, and she absolutely kills it in this. She like turns into a
mm,
whole nother person, in my opinion. Not that she does that much as far as like, like showing emotions and stuff, but she just becomes a different character completely, and it fits the Mandy character and how she portrays it, especially after watching her and stuff like, Possessor and other things and stuff.
oh
Uh
yeah.
but one thing I like about her is as soon as you see her and what she's doing in that moment, you learn so much about her in like a like 2 frames, pretty much. You
Mm,
see her scarred face and know that she's been through some shit. Then you also see the metal, like the Motley Crue shirt and like the cut
mm,
off sleeves, so she's like a metalhead. But then she's also painting, so she's an artist. So like immediately in like 1 frame, like literally that could be a still, and somebody could show it to me, and I'd be like, oh, like you could know so much about a person so quickly. And like you said, that's this film could be silent. I think the only thing that you kind of need that kind of lean the weight as well into the apart from the scene that you were talking about, um the whole Starlighter story that she tells him about her
mm,
dad and stuff, that kind of lets you know that that might be where her like trauma comes from, is like a abusive father and stuff like that, and her childhood and
sure.
stuff. But
Oh
I do
yeah.
love the title card, the Shadow Mountains, and it lets us know that we're in like this alternate 1983 in a way. So
Yeah, there's a lot of thoughts on this movie too, whether or not like I mean, yes, it's an alternate reality, but like, whether or not the movie is like fantasy, like if any of the reality is real, if it is it a real world, that kind of thing. So there's some interesting things. I've heard theories about like, this is really just a fantasy novel book, but yeah, I mean that was kind of what stood out to me too, is like, you know, breaking up your standard film, giving you a title card and even giving you title cards almost like chapter heads, um, was really cool. And they're all different. It's not like the same font artwork, like it all comes in differently too, which is also rad.
yeah.
So,
No, it kind of feeds into the feel of like, especially with them kind of playing into the like um really highlighting the aspect of this book that Mandy is reading and stuff like that. It kind of
mm,
plays into the like chapters of a book, you know what I mean? Like almost everything I've been reading lately has had like named chapters, you know what I mean?
mhm,
Sometimes you have just have a book that's like chapter 1, chapter 2, but
sure.
like everything I've been reading lately has had like named chapters, and it just makes me immediately think of that when watching this. And another thing I like
Mhm,
about it, shout out to a podcast called Cinema of Cruelty. This is my first time listening to them, but they really broke down. Like I listened to their episode on Mandy today just to kind of
mm,
like have, just some other thoughts and stuff on it. But they really broke down the film. They didn't really just give like it wasn't so much of them just giving opinions. It was more them
mhm.
like breaking down everything throughout the film that like and the meaning behind it and stuff. So I highly recommend checking it out. But they mentioned the fact that you hear Ronald Reagan's speech at the beginning of this,
Oh
and
yeah.
she figured out the date that speech was given on. And shout out, it's on my birthday. So this film technically happens on my birthday on March 8th.
Oh, no
So
way.
I wasn't
That's
born yet,
crazy.
but it was before I was born. But so that's kind of cool, just like that whole thing. And then of course,
Mhm,
they play into that whole like they have like in the speech he says stuff about how like so many people don't like pornography and blah blah blah, and then the way this film goes towards the end you can say it's kind of like people love this film and it's kind of not pornographic in that way but at the end, but it goes pretty crazy in the end, so
mhm. Yeah, I mean, one of the things whenever I recommend this movie, they're like, "What is it like?" And I'm like, "This movie is a literal acid trip."
yeah.
But
I'm like it's a
yeah.
heavy metal album cover come to life.
Oh yeah, it's yeah, exactly. It is sleep.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, dude, and then so yeah, you get this beginning and you get introduced to like the cult aspect of the film, which I mean, naturally, there's a lot of reasons why this movie just I'm so gravitated towards it. The coloring and everything. I love any kind of cult story angle. So like as soon as you get introduced to Jeremiah Sands, like you're like, what? Like that dude was insane. Like he did
yeah,
such a good job. The way he would do his like, because he's like such a like evil force, but then he's so weak too. He's such a baby, and his weird little tantrums were, I don't know, they're crazy. They're really good. Yeah, what did you think of like the whole cult story line to it? Like, did that surprise you when that came into it, or did you
yeah.
know that was gonna happen?
So that's when I really like got sucked into the movie. That's when I
Mm,
was like, okay, I'm like I can deal with this slow burn, you know what I mean? Because that's the thing is I like a slow, especially since 2019, I've gotten more patient with films, definitely.
mm,
But I've always been a fan of the slow burn anyways, but I need that one thing that really like, sucks me in and like keeps me like driving towards that end, that payoff. And so as soon as you get introduced to this cult, I'm like, okay, I already like Red and Mandy and their relationship, but I couldn't sit with them much longer without getting
mm,
bored, if I'm being honest. So as soon as you get to this cult, it's like perfect timing, and the way they introduce them is like you get so much info about them as well, which you do need their dialogue, I'm not gonna lie,
mm,
uh but it's very minimal dialogue. It's mostly just Jeremiah Sands talking, and it's the way people react to his words and stuff like that that
mm,
are so strong. And I love like his entire like crew of people. I can't remember
mm.
his second in command's name, the guy. Um
Oh,
Swan, I think.
yeah, Swan, brother
Yeah,
Swan. Yeah.
that dude fucking looks stoned out of his mind the entire
Oh,
movie. Not that they like pretty much
yeah.
all do, but he like he looks like next level. Like that dude looks like he actually came to work like already like
Oh,
stoned. It was
yeah.
like, oh,
They're
no makeup needed.
they're all fully geeked in this movie. Holy
Yeah.
shit, the mullet kid, that's just like
Yeah.
like what is he doing? I just want to know how they cast that dude. And they're just like, you look like a freak. You're hired.
Yeah, like do nothing. Like it's like that scene in I Love You or not I Love You Man, Forgetting Sarah Marshall where he's like
Hmm.
do less. He's like
Oh yeah,
do
yeah,
nothing. He's like when he's teaching him to surf, but no, but and then I love how much Linus Roache gave to the performance of Jeremiah Sands.
yeah.
You know about his like album, right?
The album that they're talking about in the movie, or
Well,
didn't he make it? Like,
Well, no. So apparently, in the song in the movie, they made for the movie, but they just made one single when the movie came out, and
uh,
it's really him singing and all that. And they
yeah.
put out the single. It's on Spotify. But years later, in 2020, uh, Linus Roache just wanted to do more of the music as the character. So he got with a band and got
No
approval
way.
from Panos Cosmatos and went and put out a full album called Liftoff under Jeremiah Sands. And that album's on Spotify too. So it was funny
Sick.
because it wasn't like truly part of the movie or anything to like go along with the movie. But
Uh,
like 2 years later, he's like, I kind of want to do some more. Like that was fun. And that's really him singing too. So it was pretty cool. But I didn't listen to the album at all because like heard about that on that podcast today. And then
mhm.
by the time I got home, I didn't really have time to like listen to it. So,
Sure.
but they played of course they played like I heard the one song, the single. I can't remember the name of it exactly. The one that's like Jeremiah Sand was a righteous man.
Mhm.
And like it's not bad. It's not as bad as like it's some chill music. But
Yep. Mandy had to be so disrespectful to his music in this film.
oh, dude, that's of course, I don't want to jump straight to that scene, but that has like my favorite moment of the whole movie is that scene. So when we get
Mm.
there, I'll definitely say it. But the only reason I don't want to jump straight to it is because I don't want to skip over them calling on the Black Skulls with the Horn of Abraxas, dude. That whole like all that lore, like the Horn of Abraxas, the Black Skulls, and then
Mhm.
what, like how you find out from the guy later on, like what they are and why they are the way they are and stuff. I just love that entire scene when they show up, their voices. The sound
Oh,
in this film is so fucking good, man. Their voices when they're like blood for blood or flesh for flesh,
yeah.
whatever they say, it's like so awesome. What did you think about that? The Horn of Abraxas like
Oh,
thing, and
dude, it
then
was
just the
some
look and
fucking most metal thing I've ever seen. I'm like that. I think so. The cult part was like, okay, like now we're cooking. Like I'm digging this. And then, of course he calls Brother Swan. He's like, get her, he's like, I want the girl. And so I don't know why I'm giving him a slight accent. But anyways, uh, and then when they drive out there and the guy blows his meteor rock and that's when you like first are like, oh wait, is this like normal reality because what's happening? And then that scene happens. I was just like, okay, this movie is like instantly like so like it just needs to land this plane because I am so bricked right now
yeah,
watching this. It's amazing. Yeah, that was so metal. Yeah, their voices where it sounds like they're choking on mud while still talking, but it's scary. Um, I love that you like can't even really tell what they look like for the
yeah,
most part. That's how cool that was. Like most films, you'd be like, oh, they just had like really cheap like practical effects and they're just trying to hide how bad their monster looks. But no, this was intentional and they're so menacing.
yeah,
And I mean, you can make a connection to like they're like the Cenobites sort of, but I don't know, dude. Like these guys are way scarier than any of the Cenobites. Yeah, they just the quads and motorcycles sound like the most like gnarly thing ever. It's awesome. Yeah.
yeah. No, and then of course it shows them take Mandy and stuff like that. And that whole scene, that's another thing that's like straight visual that I love is
Hmm.
he says the blood for blood thing, and then you just literally see them take that one little like chubby guy, and I'm allowed to say that because I'm
Oh yeah.
chubby. They take the one heavy set guy and like that's like literally all you see is them like pull him away as he's screaming
With
and
his dumb curly top.
yeah,
He's
he
just
reminds me of the
like,
kid from Bad Santa. I'm like like he
yes, dude, it is. It's him grown up.
cut his fingers all up fucking putting the calendar back together. But no, but I just love that whole scene when they show up and stuff like because you get to see like their last like bit of normalcy where they're just like eating cereal and watching TV together
Hmm.
before like the Black Skulls just come in and fuck shit up. But now I'm with you. They took this film to the next level for me. Is like I'm exactly the same way. Like I like cult films and this could have been cool even with just the cult stuff. But as soon as
Yeah.
the Black Skull showed up, I was like, this film is the most metal film I've ever fucking seen. And it doesn't even have a like metal song in it really outside of
Hmm.
Starless, which is just like the ballad of metal songs. So it's like
Hmm.
I didn't mean to mention that intro reminded me so much of like Cannibal Holocaust, the way that
Mm.
the helicopter noise is going in the background, and like it's a lot of like people moving with like the helicopter and
Yeah.
the wind and the trees, and it's this soft, very soft music that's like almost like very beautiful. And
Hmm.
it's like you know that the horror to come later like isn't like matching that beauty, but so now it just really made me think of like Riz Orlani's score for Cannibal Holocaust and stuff, which
Hmm.
I love. Uh, but no, but then of course going into that scene, you know, where he takes Mandy and drugs her up and stuff. How'd you feel about that? Like, I'm not somebody that's ever done psychedelics. Obviously, I've smoked
Hmm.
plenty of weed, but I've never like done anything past that. Have you ever done any psychedelics or anything? And like,
No, no, I mean, I was straight edge for like the longest
true, yeah,
time,
that's right.
So yeah, I am not very well experienced in the alternate realms
Yeah,
of reality like that. Um, but I mean, he does such a good job of like, I mean, that's what I would think maybe on being on some crazy acid trip would feel like or whatever. I mean, they drop, I'm assuming it's at like some kind of form of LSD, in her eye, and then they have her get stung by that, you know,
yeah,
giant ass wasp. I remember seeing that get pulled out and I'm like, ooh, and then they show it next to her neck and I'm like, that thing is the size of a hand.
yeah.
Um and yeah, oh gosh, and then yeah, whatever that just sends her and yeah, that whole scene was awesome. Um Another one where like I feel like there were scenes like that in Beyond the Black Rainbow where like the audio is so echoey and reverberated that you're just like, you're just like floating in the atmosphere watching this scene unfold, and it's like that. But like this had me so much more captured with the dialogue and Jeremiah Sands like monologue as to like why he's amazing, and he's like, trying to be Mr. Cool Guy in front of Mandy.
Yeah.
That whole his whole dialogue there is so good. Um, and then naturally he's just like puts on his music and he's just like, ooh, look at me.
He starts trotting like
All
Buffalo
the while
Bill.
the guys are in the background like all rubbing each other's like elbows and stuff like, yeah, we're into Jeremiah Stands. We love his music.
Yeah, he's definitely fucking every single one of his
Oh,
disciples, that's for sure. Yeah.
yes.
No, they that's the thing is like that whole scene like I said I've never done it myself, but from people that have like described it to me, that's like kind of what
Mm,
they describe as very just like trancerish, like stuff being traced, around
mm,
and stuff like very just like the lights kind of stay and like just pretty much exactly what you see. And of
mm.
course like that's not all all hallucinogens or whatever they are, some do crazier things and some do even less. So uh
Mhm.
but like what she does, but that whole scene, like the way it plays out is perfect to me. It's almost like makes I didn't even realize it was happening in Mandy's home still. I thought they were like back at the
Oh,
fucking
same.
yeah, like it took me until they like go outside to Red until I realized that they were at the house.
Mhm.
But no, that scene when her face starts molding with his when he's doing the speech is
Mhm.
my favorite thing in the whole entire film. It like blows my mind every time.
It
I'm
is
like the
cool.
way they like impose her face over his and like he's still talking, but it like I don't know, it's like such a mind trick, but I love it. But
Mhm.
uh
Loved it so much that we made a shirt with that scene basically
yeah,
when we did our Mandy drop. Yeah, that was yeah, that I mean that whole I mean that sets up it sets up the two forces so perfectly. You have his evil and her goodness and like their powers are put together, uh and she laughs at him in his face, and that is so badass. Like, yeah, that really set like because you get so much, like you said, you got a little bit of background about Mandy, and then you already like want to stand by, Nick Cage's character. He just seems so loving and loyal, so you're just like instantly like, yeah, yeah, the Red and Mandy, like, I'm team them. These
Yeah,
guys blow. So yeah, good pivot right there for sure.
yeah. No, and it shows his like not that he's already not shown how like psychopath, like how much
Mm.
of a psychopath he is, but like it really shows how far he is, like as far as like almost like bipolar, his bipolarness when he like
Oh
shifts
yeah.
between moods. When he's like, as soon as she starts laughing, he's like, "Stop looking at me," and starts telling
Mm.
like yelling at everybody else immediately. And no, I love that it's almost like it's almost like she realizes that the song is him singing about himself and just like
Mm.
can't stop geeking over it, like this
Yeah.
motherfucker, like
Yeah. She
same
calls him out for
dude.
being a dork. She's like, you're an industry plant." She's just like total scene kid, just like calling him out for being a poser,
And typ
not being core. But
and
yeah.
typical incel behavior on his point, because
Oh yeah.
as soon as she like uh as soon as she rejects him, he's like, "You whore." He starts calling her
Yeah.
a whore.
Oh
It's
yeah.
like he even says that line coming up, what the darker or what the darker the whore, the brighter the fire or brighter the flame or
Yes.
whatever. But
The brighter it burns, or yeah.
yeah.
Um yeah, and then so you have her execution, which Red has to watch. And like I think at this point you're like, she's got to die. Like that's what this story is leading to. Like that wasn't like a shock killing to me,
Yeah.
but it was it was done more brutally than I expected it would, because this is, our first this is our first like on-screen death that we're seeing, other than seeing, uh Mr. Lil Hans or whoever he is get yanked away by the window. But
Little
yeah,
thickums.
think oh God. Um, but yeah, and then you're just like, I mean, them burning her, and like Red's, he's not just tied up by like zip ties, he's freaking tied up by barbed wire, and they're just mocking him, and he's getting like taking punches. Like, dude, gets stabbed by the freaking dagger. Dude, yeah, it was like, okay, like this is gonna go to the next level. And that is really when it gets to that next level. And you think that's where it stops.
Yeah.
You don't think it can go higher than that, but it does. Um, yeah, it was a heavy death. Did it hit you? Like, were you like mad, or like how did that affect you on that scene? Like, was it like a big one for you?
Yeah, well, going into the movie, I didn't know if she would die or if they would just take her and he would come
Mm,
for her and stuff. So when
sure.
this scene started happening, I was like, "There's no way that they're gonna like completely get away with this," you know what I mean,
Mm,
or whatever. And then once it started happening, I was like, "Holy fuck!" Like they're going this far, and then for them to do it so brutally, burn her alive in a bag in front of them, pretty much,
mm,
is so fucked up. It's like, wow. So like it made that like an act like that just makes that second like, that final act of the film where he gets his revenge just so much
hmm
more worth it. Because that's the thing about this film is it's a very simple story, but those beats that are you that all these like revenge films hit all these revenge films hit the same beats, but the way this one hits those beats is so unique and so gut punchy that
hmm
along with having a straight sh- visionary filmmaker with Panos Cosmatos make this, because this is a film that is a basic story but given to the wrong filmmaker would be a basic ass movie
Oh my
too.
gosh, yeah.
But
Seriously.
he had such a vision with this, and then with the cinematographer Benjamin Loeb, and this is a film that he wanted to film on film, but because this was the first one he had like a producer behind, they were
Hmm
like, no, that was like their one thing is like they were like, no, films these days are digital, we want it digital. So that the only grain he got to do was like in post.
Sure.
Um, But the way they just knocked this out of the park with the way it looks and everything, with like even the glare on the lens at most moments, you know what I mean? And that's one of my favorite things is the way that there's like a glare on the lens on in most scenes. It like makes everything just feel so bright and almost like you're kind of dealing with the same. That's one thing. I mean, I
Mm.
have, like I said, I have smoked a lot of weed and bright lights suck. So I feel like that's just adding to like the drugginess of this film
Sure,
and
sure.
stuff. And but so this when this scene came up and the way it's filmed and the way it like goes silent with, why you see Nicolas Cage like crying out and stuff like that, so you don't actually hear it, but you just see it and stuff. Like
Mm.
when this scene hit, it made me more excited for the last like half
Yeah.
hour of the film or 45 minutes of the film at that point because I was like, oh
Mm.
fuck, now we're gonna get to see Rage Cage at full fucking volume, dude.
Oh, and buddy, do we get a treat? I mean, this whole movie, you're thinking like, oh, like it feels like Nick Cage is more of a cameo at this point, with
Yeah,
the way he's interacting. It's like, oh yeah, the focus is all on Andrew Riseborough. Um, and then we go full Cage,
yeah,
and it happens quick. Um, the humor that offsets like this tragedy by, everything happens and then he wakes up and it's daytime, right? Or yeah, like dusk or early morning or whatever. And he picks up her ashes, watches her skull like disintegrate into a gust of wind when he's like holding it, stumbles back inside, and you get cheddar goblins.
yes, dude.
And it's like you just got hit with this gut punch, and then you have the most like I would consider it more of like a 90s era
Yeah,
commercial. But it's just like Cheddar Goblins, which was done by one of the dudes that does like Your Pretty Face is Going to Hell, I'm pretty sure.
he did. I know he
'Cause
did Too Many Cooks.
yeah, because
Sure, yeah,
he like is friends with Henry. They work together, I think, on Pretty Face.
yeah.
Um, so that's so cool that like like Panos is like, I want a wacky practical thing just thrown into this. Like that you would in any other film you would feel like that's the most random scene ever, but it feels so awesome in this. And it's goofy. It's like where did like is that his way of being like I could be campy? I don't know. It's super interesting. Um, do you think that was to just add to like the weight of everything? Let's just throw this stupid commercial to make it that much like heavier. I don't know. It's interesting.
I think it was like a perfect way of shifting the tone going forward
Mm,
because while the story's been kind of very straightforward and while it has been very like visually striking, there's
uh,
nothing with the story that's been like goofy or campy or anything really. But this moment going forward, there's a lot more stuff that does get like crazy and campy. There's animated scenes, there's
mm,
him like making these goofy faces. There's these one-liners uh one of my favorite ones, my favorite line in the entire film is when he, because it's a scene coming up, I'll go ahead and mention it. But when he goes to Caruso, I think is the character's name, the one played by Bill
mm.
Duke, and he says something about like your chances aren't good. He's like, don't be negative. That's like
Yeah.
literally what he says. Is like, and
Don't
I
be
was
negative.
between that and then the line where he says like you ripped my favorite shirt and shit like that. But uh and what else he say? Oh, where he says like, "Do you got a death wish?" He's like, "I don't want to talk about that right now."
I don't want to
Like,
talk about
yeah, and so it's like it goes into like even when he snaps the guy's neck, he like makes like a smile at the camera, and like it
Uh-huh.
goes into like this kind of like has a camp to it going forward that I feel like Cheddar Goblin almost introduces. And I feel like it's perfect, you know what I mean? Because it fits with the metalness with the way the Cheddar Goblin looks, and but it also I don't know, it just feels like almost it almost like makes you also think is Nicolas Cage like in this drugged like is he
Mm,
like already been drugged by them because there's very possibility the way they like to just fuck with people that they could have drugged him up when they threw him out there and this
mm.
is all just a trip in his mind at this point and showing that he's completely broken and lost his mind and that's like kind of a way of showing it too so no I loved it and I like the way that one cool behind the scenes fact is the commercial was made using 20 gallons of mac and cheese, pineapple Fago, and lemon Jello, and they were just dumping it on kids for the whole like these two kids. But I'm like, why the fuck did you need? Why can't it just be mac and cheese? Why'd you need pineapple Fago and fucking lemon Jello? But
Oh my God. Yeah. So yeah, you get that, and then he goes into the bathroom, and I mean, you're like, oh yeah, I'm expecting him to, he got stabbed, he's got all these wounds, and he starts like pouring it, and then he's just like, I remember him taking like the first swig of the vodka, and you're like, oh damn, dude, that's a heavy pull. And then he is just like chugging that shit like it is like he just
Yeah.
ran a marathon and he's drinking some Gatorade. And I'm just like, oh, and the way he like grabs his throat, like, and then starts screaming,
Yeah.
you know, and you're like, whoa, he's like really letting it out. And then he gets like his scream literally goes up like it's Fast and the Furious, and the RPMs are like, you're
Yeah.
like, holy shit, okay. And I think that was when I first was just like, dude, Nick Cage is like gonna throw everything at this movie. I am so happy right now. Yeah.
Feel like John Lovitz in Wedding Singer, he's like, he's losing his mind.
Yeah.
No,
Uh,
one thing I love about that scene is the way it's shot. Like the way I think it wouldn't be the same if it was like a close up or anything. Like the way
mm,
you literally get head like floor to ceiling, and you even have extra room around him, like just pretty much
mhm,
showing you the entire bathroom. I think is it like you almost expect him to start just thrashing the room because of the way it visually shows
yeah.
you everything. But the way he like collects himself and like internalizes it instead and like goes after the right people, it's like
Mhm,
I think it just shows like how much of like a strong like presence he is, you know what I mean, and strong person. And then apparently I don't know how true it is, but one of the things that podcast mentioned is that when it went time to film the third act of this film, Panos Cosmatos told Nicolas Cage to watch Friday the 13th Part 7 because that was the first one with Kane Hodder. So he was
uh-huh.
like watch Jason in that film and like kind of like think about those movements and stuff with the way you like go forward. It makes sense too because he's very like big and hulking with his movements
Yeah.
when he's like fighting the Black Skulls and stuff. He almost like it's the first time ever that I see Nicolas Cage as the bigger presence like
Mhm,
against another person. You know what I mean? And he's always like seems tall, but it's not in a way of like intimidating. You know, like same thing with like Vince Vaughn. You know, when he was used in that Brawl and Cell Block '99 movie, it was like, damn,
oh
finally
yeah.
somebody's using this guy's size. You know, kind of
Totally,
same thing
totally.
with Nicolas Cage, especially when most actors are like 5'5" and shit. So. But which going forward, that's the next thing he pretty much goes and sees Bill Duke, which he, uh does he forge the weapon after he sees Bill Duke?
Yeah, he does it after. So he goes in, and that's when, because he goes in and he's like asking where his if he still has his crossbow,
Yeah.
and so he's talking to him, and then he's giving him all this advice, and he tells him who the Black Skulls are and like what their evil is. So it's like the training montage scene,
Yeah.
he's like he's got to hear about what this evil is, and if you do it you got to be prepared, and then yeah, then he goes and he freaking forges the beast,
Yeah.
uh
Which of course for
which
anybody, I just want to say for anybody listening in the Black Skulls, if you're listening and maybe either missed that scene or you're
mm,
listening and didn't want to watch the movie, they are a group of people that took a bad batch of acid given to them on purpose by the drug dealer, that turned them into these fucking crazy killing machine
mhm,
psychopathic biker Cenobites pretty much
mhm.
for the rest of their lives. So but my bad, I didn't mean to cut you off. I just wanted to
Oh
give
no,
like
yeah.
what they were just for people that might not know, or because some people like that's the thing, they might have went pee and then just thought to themselves, oh, that just they might be supernatural things. It's like no, they're just
Mhm,
drugged out fucking maniacs. But
mhm. But I feel like, and we could talk about it more at the end, I do feel like there's like, are some of these things supernatural? I don't know,
yeah,
because, we kind of blur those worlds a little bit. But yeah, so then he comes back and he forges that super rad axe. And I knew he was making a weapon. And then like once you see it, you're like, what the hell is this dude building?
yeah,
I've never seen an axe like that. Which hands off to the, the prop design team and everything, or hats off, because friggin', I mean, have you ever seen any kind of axe that looks like that?
no, that thing was badass. It was unique and badass. Like it wasn't
Yeah,
like, oh, that's cool, but it
yeah,
wasn't unique for unique sake. It was unique
sure.
and sick looking. Like it immediately like I said, this movie looks like it was ripped off of an album cover from like the 80s, you know
Mhm.
what I mean? Like
Yeah,
something's like I'm trying to think of something more obscure because all I keep thinking about is Iron Maiden, but I'm like Eddie's and all those.
yeah,
Uh,
sure.
but it looks like it's like the front cover of like a fucking Accept album or some shit. But no,
Oh
I just
yeah. It is, this whole movie is like Conan the Barbarian, what's his face? Is it uh was it Frank Frazzetti artwork? You know, it's like
You know,
that fantasy metal artwork, like
or like the
in
movie
film
Heavy
form.
Metal. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, hell yeah. No, and of course he forges the beast and then goes and starts hunting down the black skulls, which I like. That's another thing that's unique about this film. He almost starts with the stronger people first and then
Hmm.
goes down the line to the weaker people. It kind of shows the hierarchy and kind of like is like relevant to real life. It's almost like the weakest people always sit at the top and tell the stronger people what to do. You know what I mean? It's like just because
Hmm.
they have the wealth or whatever of whatever they have. In this movie, somehow Jeremiah Sands has like weaseled his way to the fucking top.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, the Black Skulls could take over and just rule shit however they want, and they still just, they'll come do what he needs, just for one little sacrifice, and stuff like that. So,
Yeah. As long as they
not,
get their goo,
yeah,
their acid goo, which they just like guzzle. Like
yeah.
just like it's so gross. But yeah.
No, and I love in this scene how he like when he starts like hunting them down and he takes the one out and when he hits it with his car, the way like it's literally
Hmm.
just sitting in the road, like the person's just sitting in the road or the black skull is and he like hits it with his car and it makes his car go fucking flipping like he just hit an iceberg or some shit. But
Yeah.
shout out Titanic.
Well, yeah, because I remember, as menacing as they seem, and then he shoots one and just instantly knocks it off of its bike, and I was like, "There's no way that thing is dead just off of one shot." And then yeah, then he hits it with the car, and then I was like, oh, "Okay,
Yeah.
yeah." And then you're like, "Okay, well now what?" Because he gets captured. You're like, "Well, how does he get out of this?"
Yeah. Then of course when he wakes up, it like there's a few times in this movie where there's some Jesus symbolism alongside
Mm,
Red, where like of course when he's tied up watching Mandy, he gets poked in the ribs with that like knife,
hmm.
like kind of like Jesus does when he was being crucified. And then
It's
when he
true.
wakes up here, he has his hand like literally nailed to the floor with like a spike, very similar to like an actual like spike that they
Hmm.
crucified with and stuff. And I don't know if I think it's supposed to be more of that like making I don't think it's supposed to be like saying he's necessarily the savior or anything like
Sure.
that. I mean, he might be like in a way, you know what I mean? But I think it also might be like he's making them repent for their sins, you know what I mean? Type
Interesting.
thing. So, no, I just wanted to point that out. I don't necessarily know exactly the meaning behind it, but it definitely stuck out, when watching it and stuff.
Hmm.
But no, then of course that's where you get the scene where he's like, I don't want to talk about the Death Wish thing, but then he just starts fucking up the Black Skulls, and
Hmm.
you do get the one scene where you get to see that the couple that died from in the house that the Black Skulls are pretty much set
Oh
up
yeah.
in, where they were pretty much fucked to death. It's like sound like a
Well,
Whitechapel song.
yeah, when you see that and you see like where the blood is, you're like, "Ew, that's kind of gross. Why are they all
Yeah,
naked too?" And then you're like, they're just dead bodies. And then you see Homeboy just like just going to town on some cocaine,
yeah,
and he's got his strap on with a knife, and you're like, "Oh
yeah, dude.
no." Yeah.
Fucking never seen a fucking butcher's blade right there. You know what I'm saying?
No, no. Yeah, I mean these guys are like literally the most sadistic
Yeah.
bad guys ever. It's crazy.
No, when he
Uh,
leans back and you like see that, of course, like I already kind of the way that like you said where their blood was, I kind of had my
mm,
thoughts, but I didn't think we would be seeing like that visual. So as soon
yeah.
as we saw that, I was like, "Fuck yeah, dude! It's got a blade cock." And
Mm.
I honestly was like wondering like if we would get I was wondering how that would be used in a fight against Red. So
Oh,
it was,
sure.
and it was cool to like see him try to at least use it against Red, but then
Mm,
Red gets the upper hand and slits his fucking throat. But the way he like slits his throat and like the way he like maniacally smiles, that's like one of the main like things that I was talking about with like the Cheddar Goblin, like kind of shifting
mm.
the tone a little bit. And like I don't
Oh
think this
yeah.
film goes campy. I didn't mean it like that when I was throwing out the word camp. I was just saying like it lets you know that there's going to be like some more like humor to it and definitely some
Mm,
more like goofiness going forward. Because I definitely wouldn't say it goes in the camp zone like
sure.
nothing else is really like it's just kind of Nicolas Cage going full cage and stuff, but
Mm,
he does it in a way that like it makes sense, when he's so drugged out, he's lost his mind at this point, and then the other one shows up in the house and he fights that one and ends up snapping his neck, which that fight scene is fucking pretty awesome too. But the way he
yeah.
like snaps his neck and smiles at the camera, or like not smiles at the camera, but like just has like this like wide-eyed grin
He's just
again.
like, ah, he's
Yeah, I'm
like
like,
embracing the madness. He's like so far beyond, you know, his complete like loss of you know, shock and grief, But
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
And that's when he takes acid, just a not a full swig. He just dips his finger in it, is like, "Ing," and just was like, and you get the cool face melting effect, which I always love.
Yeah.
But yeah.
No, I love that little animation scene, which of course,
Mm,
there's like a few cool things like that in this film where there's like animated, like that, the
mm,
animated melting scene, but there's also just like full on animated like
mm.
dream sequences with Mandy and this and that, which are pretty cool. And
Yeah, definitely feels very heavy metal, in those moments for sure.
apparently that green stone that she like grabs in the one animated scene is
Uh,
is from Heavy Metal. I've never seen the movie, but that was
oh shit.
that podcast I was listening to said that it was from Heavy Metal, so I don't know.
It's been a while. I actually just picked that up on VHS
Oh yeah.
this week. Yeah. But yeah, so then he leaves their compound. So he's killed three of them at this point. And that's when he goes and he meets the LSD guy, right? The guy that makes the drugs.
Well, he kills the fourth black skull outside. Um
Oh
which
yeah, that's right. That's right. That's right.
the
Yeah.
most badass scene because he fights that guy with it. He gets the beast back, the axe, and he goes outside and starts fighting that guy, and that guy gets caught on fire. Then he fucking chops his head off while he's on fire, and he lights a cigarette with his on fire decapitated head. I was like,
Mhm.
that's fucking heavy
Uh,
metal as shit, dude.
can we talk about how before he even gets into melee combat with him, he
Oh
shoots
yeah,
him through the throat, and Homeboy just pulls it so slowly out, and then just
yeah.
keeps staring at this burning car because he's so high. He's just like, "This is tight, dude." He's like, "Got something in my throat, but I'm gonna stare at this fire, dude."
But then he like reacts like a fucking ninja when he swings the battle axe at him. That nah, yeah, I didn't even think to mention that. Yeah, that part
Yeah.
is so sick. The way it like hits him and he just
Mhm.
like fucking pulls it out like a G and then fights pretty well until he gets caught on fire. But uh
Yeah.
no, that's fucking that whole sequence is so fucking metal. Just him getting lit on
Yeah.
fire, his head chopped off while still on fire, and then he lights the cigarette. I was like, hell yeah. But then that's when he goes to meet the chemist after
Mhm.
that, um, which is played by Richard Brake brilliantly. Which
Mhm.
I'm always a fan of Richard Brake showing up, especially in small doses, because he's good in big doses, but uh,
Sure.
I like him as like a villain or something. You know what I mean? So usually he doesn't you don't get much of.
And this was kind of the first part in the film. I mean, you could wager that the Black Skulls, like once we're starting to have these battles, like everything is feeling way less like the universe that they were already in. But then
Yeah,
he's in this like, it just looks like a classic like, sheet metal bunker kind of shop, that he goes to. And then when you go inside, it's like massive and it's like more futury and techy, with the
yeah,
big ceiling light, which has like the auto feature like turning on as he walks into it, which wasn't an 80s thing at all, if this is supposed to be the 80s at whatever this world is. Um, so yeah, it feels like sci-fi futuristic, like a different planet, if anything. Yeah, and that whole interaction, like he recognizes him because like the tiger doesn't react, like, "Oh, you're a good guy,"
yeah.
and they have this deep conversation without Nick Cage saying a word, a word other than "I don't want to talk," or "I don't want to talk about that."
Yeah, the tiger sitting there in the cage is like one of the things that like again visually striking and just immediately like pulls my attention.
Mhm,
But yeah, I love that part, the way the guy like pretty much like acts like he can talk with the tiger. He's like, "Yeah, you're a good guy." And he's like uh I think he mentions that he thought at first that he was the Black Skulls coming to kill him or something like that, and he was
mhm,
like, "But you took care of that already." But and he gives away and this is how he finds out where the cult is. This guy
mhm.
tells him and he goes off to finally take care of the children of the new dawn,
Yep.
which I don't know if we gave their name up when we were first talking about them, but uh
Yeah.
I'm sure we probably did. But so when he shows up, he like kind of stakes them out by like looking over this mountaintop, and you see that they're building this like midsummer-esque fucking temple, which of course this was before Midsummer, so
Hmm.
I guess Midsummer was building a Mandy-esque temple. But no, so they're building like this temple and shit, and he fucking suits up and goes into town to, take care of business with them.
Hmm.
Um, what really stuck out with you with like this sequence and stuff? I mean, all these kills are awesome too, but what like did any of them like uh Do you want to just
Uh,
kind of run through these in order, or what?
yeah. Well, so like I mean, obviously with the fight with the Black Skulls, that felt like his like real opposition, or like competition, like that's gonna be the hardest thing to kill.
Yeah,
Now he's gonna go up against these like all of this feels much more personal, like because the Black Skulls helped them, but it was purely contractual, like they don't care about anybody,
yeah,
whereas like you want the cult members to die because they are so shitty. Um, but yeah, when he kills the first guy, I mean, the end of the beast, like to the face, and
yeah.
just like so brutal, like the way he's just like, just
You're like
blood. It's just
shoving it in his mouth. Yeah,
so bad. And then he lets the girl go, which I thought was kind of cool. It like just shows you how much like respect he has towards women, and he can tell she's like, probably been through a lot, and like if anybody, she's the one that needs to be allowed to leave,
well, she was
Just
made to play Russian roulette in front of him when
yeah.
he was tied up and stuff. And yeah, I think he could definitely tell that she was more like trapped in a bad situation. Like she was a young, impressionable mind that listened to the
Hmm.
wrong person and got
Totally,
stuck in a
totally.
cult, which is happens. You know what I mean? Sometimes it's just the wrong person that's lonely. You know what I mean? So,
Hmm.
uh, but no, no, I agree. I love that it starts with a bang, and of course, like it's one of those things that these are almost like the only one that even puts up a fight is the chainsaw fight, but
Hmm.
everybody else he kind of just cuts down with fucking vengeance, and it's awesome. You know what I mean? It moves slow, and but it's also somehow seems just as action packed as those fights with the Black Skulls, and I think it's exactly what you said and pointed out was because these are the heartfelt ones. These are the ones that you're
Hmm.
like you already have the like fuck yeah get them behind you, so you don't really need
Hmm.
the like long drawn out fight and stuff, but. Yeah, he gets that
Totally.
one guy in the mouth, and then you just see the silhouette of the other dude just take it to the fucking face. Like that shit's
Yeah.
dope. I love that. Like where it just sees it and squirts out, especially because that's
Mhm.
like the straight goofball of them all. But
Oh yeah. While he's cleaning his car, he's like
yeah,
he's like, ooh, yeah, making his dumb faces. And then just doink, yeah, then you get the chainsaw fight,
okay.
which was sick. And how hilarious when he gets, he's like, yeah, I'll take this chainsaw. This'll do. This'll do. And then homeboy pulls out like a 8 foot long chainsaw.
Yeah, just fucking and he like the way he like slowly pulls it out from behind the thing. It's like, oh, you asshole.
Yeah, yeah. Oh my gosh, so funny, but it didn't matter. So,
No, and then one thing is a lot of people like to say this is a reference to Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, and I definitely see the similarity because
mm,
the chainsaw fight between Lefty and Leatherface.
sure.
But one of the things they mentioned on that podcast, Cinema of Cruelty, is
Mm.
that apparently he borrowed a lot of the choreography for this chainsaw fight from Phantasm 2's chainsaw fight, which
Oh,
I've only seen Phantasm 2 like twice, but I
I
love
don't
it, and I
I
would
don't
watch
remember
a
a chainsaw fight.
well, that was my thing is I didn't remember it either until they mentioned it. I was like, oh yeah, there is one in that. And I love Phantasm 2 and would watch it all the time, but it's never streaming anywhere because that's the one that has rights issues. And like I don't feel like breaking out my
Hmm.
Blu-ray of the Blu-ray set and putting it in all the time and stuff. So I just watched the first one like constantly. But I love Phantasm 2. We might have to visit some of those soon. It'd be hard to do
Yeah.
the whole we might have to if we do the whole franchise, it might be easier to do like one episode a month, like covering
Mm,
them or you know what I mean instead of trying to do all
sure.
at once because there's five of them and stuff. But definitely have to might get into Phantasm soon. But
I'm down. Um,
oh yeah,
but yeah, that was an epic chainsaw fight. Another massive dude that he's fighting,
yeah,
And then at that point you're like, well, there's really nobody to really worry about that he has to battle, So he makes his way to the this chapel, I want to know what he read, because he picks up the book that's at the pulpit, It
yeah,
would have been kind of cool if there was like a line you got to see, from it. But
yeah,
and then how interesting that it's like there's a hole in the ground and he has to go down into this like catacomb to find like this whole nother layer of, hell or whatever you want to call this, is really interesting too, where he meets the old lady, and she's talking about how like amazing of a lover she is,
yeah.
which is so
The most
weird.
sensual lover that's ever he's ever had.
Hmm.
No,
And then, yeah.
no, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no, no, no. You first.
I was just no, I agree. That's one of the things that it kind of reminded me of too, was like the layers of hell, the way that they were going down to meet him, but also it was like him cowering away as far as he could as well. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So, but that was another thing, is it felt like the one question, like the only question I had at this moment were they even aware that Red was coming for them? You know what I mean? They kind of
Mhm.
very uh bravely like left him behind, just thinking that he was a non-issue. But because of their deal with the Black Skulls and the way they had to call them with the Horn of Abraxas, which also lends into the supernatural stuff you're talking about,
Mhm.
the fact that they pretty much called him with the fucking horn, but
Mhm.
with basically an ocarina. But you know what I mean? So there wasn't like one of them got on the horn real quick and was like, "Hey, we're under attack from Red." You know what I mean?
Sure.
So, or that the chemist gave him the fucking heads up, like, "Hey, I just sent this guy your way. Good luck." So, and the blindsidedness of like him coming on them, like showing up to them as well, him coming on them.
Yeah. La, la,
I edit that out, that's for sure. The, but the like him, the randomness of him just showing up on them, it like makes it even like funnier the way that they react. With like the uh mother, was it Mother Marcy or Marceline or something like that, and
Mhm.
then of course Jeremiah Sands, like the way that they both offer up sexual favors in a way. But uh now I love and that's my favorite thing, is the introduction. Well, not my favorite thing. I already said my favorite thing was the imposed face scene, but one of the things I really love about this ending is when he throws her fucking decapitated head. That for one, that gets me in any movie when a decapitated
Uh-huh.
body part gets like thrown at somebody else. But it makes it even funnier in this because it's like been such a serious like revenge story, and
Mhm.
this motherfucker's just like, bitch, here's the head. You know what I mean? So
And he's such a baby. He's like, ah, he
yeah,
gets scared by it and everything. 'Cause he's walking in, he's like, you can't enter here, and then he throws the head at him. He's like, oh, don't hurt me. He starts
yeah.
begging immediately, please don't hurt me.
He like kicks it away. He's like,
Yeah.
when,
Oh yeah.
no, he literally
Yeah.
tells him he'll suck his dick.
Well, that's what's so crazy. It's like he flips back and forth where he's like so tough and like menacing, and then he's like, "But please don't hurt me. I'll do anything." And he's like, "Absolutely not. You can't hurt."
Yeah,
It's he does such a good job of just like showing like how uncontrolled he is at this point. He's so far gone. But
yeah.
yeah. And then he gets his head squished like a bug.
His desperation. But no, I love that line. What does he say? He's like, "I'm your god now," or something
Hmm.
similar to like
Yep, yep, that's what
that. And
Nick
then
Cage. I'm your god now.
and then very Jason Voorhees-esque, just fucking smashes his head. Fucking
Yep.
yeah, that shit was awesome. But and then of course you get the kind of finale where he like heads out and he like has the scene in Mandy with the car, where he's like smiling
Hmm.
at her, and uh they get that maniacal stare smile again.
Just
But
yeah.
the fact that it's like she's kind of been along with him for like his journey too, from like the animated sequences in his dreams to, like him still kind
Mhm.
of fantasizing about her here and stuff. But
She's
uh,
like his spirit guide.
you know, but hell yeah. Do you have any thoughts or anything we forgot to cover before we dive into rating this?
I guess like I mean, I think that's a good question at that end because as he's driving away, then you see this like mountainous, like sci-fi mountain, otherworldly landscape behind him with the Jupiter or whatever planets are in this, atmosphere.
Yeah.
And so at the end, like, what do you think? Do you think like is Red still human at the end? Like, did he transcend into a different, existence, or is this all in his head? Is it just the acid that's, getting all of this like new universe stuff? I don't know. It's interesting. I don't really have an opinion, I think. But yeah.
I think it's just alternate 1983. Like I think this is an alternate Earth, you know what I mean? Just like how, because they even mention like Galactus in this film, um
Mm,
and which lets you know that Panos is at least somewhat a Marvel fan, or at least knows somewhat about like their at least like knows somewhat about the comic book lore.
mhm.
And so it kind of makes me think that he was going with like this just being like another version of Earth, you know what I mean? Like this is Earth,
Sure.
this is the heavy metal Earth, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
how like right now there's, even in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, not to compare this to that at all, but like in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, there's certain things that take place in like this Earth, and then like one's like Earth 616, the one's Earth
Mhm.
354 or whatever, and so I think this is kind of like the same thing
Sure,
where
sure.
like especially the way it says like 1983 AD and shit like that. Like I think it's because like
Mm.
I think it's just in the way like they say the Shadow Mountains and like this and that. I think it's just letting us know that it's like a mystical version of like Earth where like things are different because like Earth like at the very end of the movie you see that like there's almost like two suns, which
Hmm.
like that alone would change our
Sure.
like atmosphere and this like the way that it should you see that like very red primordial sky and that scene where
Hmm.
Mandy's walking and it's like almost very crimson and violet. It
Yeah,
feels very like uh that feels like it's very actually in the film, like not something that's just being done for our visual sake. You know what I mean? It almost seems like
sure.
that's how it looks outside at that moment. So, no, I kind of that's where my mind goes is that this all takes place in this very alternate like universe. Like that's how the black skulls are how they are. That's how like
Hmm.
these other things like you mentioned the chemist, and his like layer, how it's kind of like very like advanced for like 80s technology and shit
Sure,
and just other little things like that. So no, I that's my thought is that it's kind of like this fantasy world, you know what I mean?
sure.
Literally. So,
Yeah.
but hell
Heck yeah.
yeah.
Where does this movie stack up for you as far as like let's just say movies in the millennium, if you will, like 2000 on, like how I mean that's a long time, 26 years now, but like
Yeah.
where does this stack in that realm of modern horror film?
Especially if we're like sticking to just horror, because that definitely makes it harder to like add in
Sure.
everything else. But definitely in the horror world, I'd have to say this is top 25. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Looking back over like there's a lot of films that I enjoy. This might be one of those ones that depending on when you ask me, I
Mm,
might forget it and it might not be on my list.
sure.
But as long as I remember it when like you know what I mean, like which I guess if I was making my list, I would literally look at like I would make sure that I looked at every movie that came out, in that.
Hmm.
But that's a lot of movies, you know what I mean? So,
Oh,
uh,
totally.
but I definitely think this would be top 25, top 30 at least, for me as
Mm,
far as like because I got a lot of like favorites from just the because we're talking pretty much what 2000 on
yeah.
or
It's your
yeah.
childhood, you got, so
Yeah, you got
some,
stuff that I'm nostalgic about, but then you also got stuff that I like have just grown to like Hereditary's up there,
mm,
you know what I mean? All of those movies, The Witch, you
sure.
got all Nope is one of my favorites, which is a more recent one,
Mm,
but then of course, you go as far back and stuff that I like grew up on like I'm a big fan of the original The Strangers. I'm a big fan of Funny Games.
mm,
Um so there's definitely some stuff in there that like this it makes it hard for this that's why I say like top 30 at least. You know what I mean? It might not be in
sure.
my top 10, top 20, but it would probably sit somewhere in that 20 to 30 number. House of the Devil's another one that would be in my top.
Mm,
Train to Busan. So there's a bunch
nice.
of them I could think of that would be above this film, but I definitely think this one wouldn't be. I don't think I could think of 30 films that I would put above this film at all.
Sure, sure.
What
Gotcha,
about you?
gotcha. I am I this movie kind of blew the waters for me. So and rewatching it, I actually rewatched it today. Um and I was thinking about it. I was like, I really think I might like this more than Hereditary or anything
Yeah.
that Ari Aster's done. Um
I could see
I'd
that
say
like
that
a lot of people I could see majority liking this more than like a Hereditary or even anything that
sure. And I would compare this mostly to Hereditary if we're talking about like dealing with grief and like the heaviness of things. They get to those levels. Obviously, they're very different films.
yeah.
Um, but I think naturally, like as such a visual person, being an artist and everything, like I think this movie just spoke to me on just such a different level, in the same way that the first time I saw Suspiria.
Yeah.
That movie just like I am just so blown away with watching this that I almost don't even need to hear anything, and that's what Mandy is probably the first film in recent years that ever did that for me. So yeah, it might be my favorite modern horror film,
Okay.
which is a heavy, heavy claim. It's definitely in top five without a doubt. But I think it might be my favorite. Just I don't know. I just again watching it, rewatching it, just like I don't know. This is one of those movies that is just going to be forever remembered. Like you can't compare it to anything, you
Yeah.
know? So yeah, I don't know. It's just so good.
No, I
Make
might.
make more movies, Panos, please.
Right now, I'm so excited for this vampire flick. I really hope it comes out this year or even, early next year. But because like the thing is, January and February used to be dumping grounds, but there's been a lot of heat coming out this January
Oh
and
yeah.
like the last few years with Cronenberg stuff dropping, and I'm talking about Brandon Cronenberg's stuff dropping in like
Yep.
February whenever he drops and all that. But Neon seems to be very big on doing early of the year drops, which I like. But I will say that if you just asked me, especially after this rewatch, because it
Mm,
would depend on how fresh it was in my mind. If you asked me what I thought the most visually striking horror films were of the
mm,
21st century, this would be top three, hands down. Maybe number one. I would really have to think about it. Possessor would be up there, of course,
mm,
but other than this and Possessor, I can't think of anything that's like visually as striking to me that's like in the 21st century. You know what I mean? I'd have to really dive back and think, but uh, no, I really love the visuals of this.
mm.
And like I said, this is another film, but this is a film I think honestly could probably be just as polarizing as like a Hereditary or something too, where somebody could watch it and think it's dog shit, and then
Oh
like
yeah.
we watch it and give it the high ass ratings we're about to give it because it's what rating are you going to give it? Do you want to rate it first? Or you want me to rate it?
In my opinion, it's a perfect film. So 10 out of 10, 5 out of 5, whatever the scale is.
Oh yeah.
It's perfect in my eyes. So,
No, fuck yeah. No, I just gave a 10 out of 10 to Green Room last week. So that, like I said, it's like some of these movies just like really strike certain chords with people. Like
oh yeah, yeah, 100%.
Green Room's probably another one I'd put like above this one. That's probably like a top five or 10 for me, uh, of the 21st century. But that's a whole other conversation. But literally, I would give this a 9.5. I like I mentioned, the only complaint is the dragging, and I don't really see that as like actual problem. It was just
Sure.
that it was literally just like that was more me talking about it because of like that was my first experience with the film. But
Sure.
like sitting down and actually watching the film and watching it through, I don't really have that issue, and I really enjoy like every moment of the film. There's not a single thing I could
Mhm.
think of that I would take out. And it is kind of long. I mean, it comes in at 2 hours or a little over 2 hours, but I think it's 121 if I'm not mistaken. So it's like an hour and
Yeah,
2 hours and a minute. But
definitely the rewatchability of this movie. I mean, it's easy to rewatch, but like this isn't like a comfort film that you can just be like, yeah, I just want to, like I could watch Fright Night anytime,
yeah,
just it's so whatever in the background. Whereas like this is like I want to be immersed, but I also need to be able to commit my time to that. So,
yeah. I will say this is a good film like for like folding laundry or something where you're not fully paying
mm,
attention because then if you take a second
that's a
to
fair point.
watch, you're jumping in at like a good visual at any moment. You know what I mean? Because like
Hmm.
if you take a second to be like, all right, I'm gonna stop and watch the TV, it's like it could be Mandy just sitting there fucking walking down the thing and running into Jeremiah Sands, and I love the way that looks. It reminds me of like again, shout out to that podcast because it was their reference, but I completely agree. It reminds me of the Unsolved Mysteries whenever they'd show somebody for the last time, the way like
Oh
freeze
yeah.
frames on her face.
Mm.
It like reminded me of something like that. But no, I really just everything about this film, like that's one thing I 100% agree. I'd give it a 10 out of 10 as far as visuals. Benjamin Loeb is a amazing cinematographer. I don't know what else he's worked on, but I definitely want to look into that. Maybe even look into getting him on the show. So maybe
That'd
we could
be
chat about
amazing.
Mandy and some other stuff. So if I get him on the show, I definitely make sure you're on that one with me. But uh no, I love Mandy. I'm glad you chose it. It was one that almost felt so obvious that that's why it's never been like one that I've thrown
Mhm.
out there and stuff. But now I'm glad we definitely finally got to knock Mandy off the docket. But
Yeah, yeah. Now, I'm excited to do Phantasm now that you brought it up. So,
well, fuck you.
whenever we do that, I'm hyped. I've been meaning to like revisit those too. So,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Now I don't think I've ever actually watched. There's five of them, I think, because I never
Yep.
watched the fifth one. I've seen like the first four, but I don't think I
I
watched the
think I
fifth one.
haven't watched the fifth one either. And I think because it was like it was when that came out, was it like Resurrection or something like that?
Ravager, I think is what it's called.
Ravager, yeah.
Yeah.
And I realized like I was like, oh yeah, I haven't watched all of these. And then getting into it, I was like, man, like being someone that typically will do the whole gamut of a franchise, uh, I was surprised when I was just like, you know what, these are a lot better, like consistently than most franchises are. But
Yeah.
yeah, just didn't, I guess, get as much hype.
No,
So,
yeah. No, we can do Phantasm after the top five 1986 episode if you want. We can
oh,
we could at least do the first Phantasm and then decide if we want to just keep going with those or, take a
Mhm.
break in between. But
Sure. Sounds good.
hell yeah, we'll do that. But hell yeah, well, join us in 2 weeks. Of course, there'll be an episode between this one and that one of where we talk about our top five of 1986. Make sure you leave a comment letting us know what you think of Mandy, where it ranks for you and your top films of the 21st century as far as horror films go, or just where they rank in your Nicolas Cage films as well, because this is definitely high up. This is probably like top two for me, Nicolas Cage films, and I'm a big Cage fan. And I just he doesn't do much horror, and this is like my type of shit. So definitely
Mhm.
shoots higher up in his stuff with that. But let us know, leave a comment, like, subscribe, leave a rating, whatever's clever for wherever you're listening, and make sure you tune in next week. Thank you for joining me, Steven. It's been a blast chatting with you.
Yeah, see you, man.